Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how I removed both of the upper control arm nuts on my 2013 F-150. This can probably work on a lot of different pickup trucks, so if you're having trouble, please comment below and let me know if this helped you or not, or if you found a different way that worked better. I know there are different ways to do things, but in this video, I'm going to show you what worked for me. Let's jump right in. Removing this nut was not very easy for me. Oh, and you definitely need to buy new nuts to replace these like I had to. More on that in a bit. This nut is a 21mm, and if you have an air gun, I would definitely use that. Just make sure you spin that nut off as quickly as possible without stopping, or else you will run into the same issue I did. I even tried to use my battery operated impact on the passenger side, however I still ran into issues. If you do what I'm doing, at some point the bolt that goes through the bushing will start spinning with the nut. That's not good, but I did find out what needs to be done in order to get them separated. At the bottom right here, you can use a socket to hold that bolt in place. I believe mine was 10mm. Then you can grab a 21mm open-ended wrench and begin loosening the nut. I'm using channel locks, which you can use to get this done. However, I would definitely recommend using a 21mm open-ended wrench. After removing the nut, the sides were in rough shape. If you are replacing yours, which you should, then it doesn't matter what you use to remove it. At some point, you won't have to hold both wrenches, as you can see here. The bottom wrench is pushing against the spring in the back as I'm turning the nut with the channel locks. While this does help, I still had a hard time turning the nut, so I decided to try something else. I grabbed my electric impact and tried to spin the nut off, but the whole thing just spun together. Then I tried to use a crowbar. First I pried up, which was the wrong way, and again, the nut would not break free. Next, I pried the correct way by putting downward pressure on the control arm. This did not work, but I did notice the control arm wasn't pressing down as much as I expected. So I thought if I adjusted where the jack stands were, maybe this would help me get the right amount of pressure onto the control arm to help me remove that nut. As you can see, the jack stand was right here holding the whole hub assembly up. Watch the hub assembly drop as I relocate the jack stand. Now with the jack stand back here, the hub will drop several more inches. At the time, I thought this was going to help. I was also wrong again for the 19th time. Oh, and if you are interested in a 2-in-1 jack and jack stand like this one right here, I'll leave the information for it in the description below. I've been using this one for years and it makes working on my truck a lot easier. It's smaller than a regular floor jack and doubles as a jack stand with its locking bracket. And no, I am not sponsored by this company, I just really like this jack. However, if Powerbuilt wants to collab, I guess we could do so. Moving on. Remember when I said this wasn't going to work? Well, here's the footage. No matter how much downward force I applied, the nut was not budging. So I caved and decided to get some heat. I bought this torch and it worked like a charm. However, it did take some time to get it hot enough to remove. Also, using the impact did not work. Just watch this. Even while I was applying a lot of force, the nut would not budge enough. And this wasn't a situation where the nut just wasn't hot enough. As you can see, I tried this several times and it did not come off. So I had to go back to the wrench and channel lock method, and this worked perfectly. There was still resistance while trying to unscrew it, but I was finally able to completely remove it. Here's the nut. These are also known as an insulator nut, and the reason for that is because they come with a plastic ring at the end to help keep the bolt from backing out. Here's a picture of a brand new nut from Ford. See that red ring at the end? That's what I'm referring to. That plastic piece is what makes removing that upper control arm nut so difficult. It's also why I was able to remove it after using heat, because I essentially melted the plastic and unscrewed it before it cooled off and became solid again. And now we can move on to that dreaded upper control arm nut. Grab your 21mm deep socket and try to remove the nut all the way. This is possible to do as long as it doesn't separate. But mine just separated. So learning from the driver's side, I'm going to grab the torch and immediately start heating that nut. Once I feel it's hot enough, I grab my 10mm socket for the bottom and use my channel locks to turn that nut, just like this. At some point it may stop turning. That just means you need more heat. And you may have to do this a few times before it completely comes off. So, apply more heat. Eventually you will feel less resistance when turning, and that means the nut is almost at the end. So at this point I decided to grab my impact and finish it off. Just like that. That's all there is to it. If you found any part of this video helpful or entertaining, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button as well as the notification bell so you don't miss a video from our channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.